Step into the magic. Watch the stories come to life. This is a celebration. Every color shines so bright. Turn on your light. Come on and live the magic. So much to find. Come on and live the magic.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Live the Magic. In this show, we look deeper into many of the Disney parks' current attractions and shows. I feel like I was being way too positive in the last video about Big Thunder, so in today's episode, in honor of Mickey Mouse's 92nd birthday, I will be talking about my least favorite show in the Disney parks pantheon, Mickey's Mix Magic. Let's begin. I'd argue that the true origin of this monstrosity can be traced back to April 10th, 2018, when the incredible Remember Dreams Come True Nighttime Spectacular went on a 6-month hiatus to make way for a special event. Pixar Fest was a limited-time event dedicated to the animation studio of the same name. While this event did consist mostly of reused offerings, such as the Paint the Night and Pixar Play Parades playing a game of Trading Places, there was at least one completely original show. Together Forever was a brand new fireworks spectacular that used much of the technology from the former Disneyland Forever, but was also quite limited on pyro. In reality, Disney was testing if tourists would notice whether or not they cut down on the pyro, and while many were none the wiser, many dedicated fans called Disney's bluff. Together Forever was temporary, and on September 3rd of 2018, it ended along with the rest of Pixar Fest and was replaced once again by Remember Dreams Come True. However, after the holiday season of 2018, Disney announced that a new show would be debuting in January in honor of Mickey's 90th birthday. Only one small problem: Mickey's 90th birthday had already passed back in November. No clue how they messed that one up. Anyway, while Remember Dreams Come True returned for a limited time after the holiday festivities ended, it held its final performance to date on January 17th of 2019. On January 18th, the new Mickey's Mix Magic premiered to an awful reception. This show was a disaster. The music made no sense, it had little to do with Mickey at all, and most importantly, the show just lacked any charm. Also, the show ran projection only the majority of the time, only including pyro on weekends and peak attendance days. And even on days where there was pyro run, there was hardly any of it. This show was as bare bones as you could possibly get, only utilizing 2 of the park's 4 launch sites and not using any of the in-park launches at all. This show was just a huge mess, and almost everyone noticed it extremely quickly. Needless to say, this show did not draw in any new crowds to Mickey's 90th birthday celebration like they had hoped. Fast forward a few months to May 31st, 2019, when a little expansion known as Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened to a less than optimal reception. People weren't coming to the new land for a multitude of reasons, and Disney needed quick fixes. Things they could get out quickly that would be big hits. While some things like the original Soarin' Over California and the Main Street Electrical Parade returned during this time, Disney felt that they could easily get more people to come back if they were to start putting more money into nighttime spectaculars. Or, any to begin with. Mickey's Mix Magic went on a hiatus after June 6th, and on June 7th, Disneyland Forever returned. Though a significantly pared-down version of the 60th anniversary show, it was still nice to have a show that wasn't a raging dumpster fire nightly. Disneyland Forever ran between June 7th and September 2nd, when it went on a hiatus again. The weird thing about this switchover was that there was never a replacement show announced. Basically, Disney just went into a full seasonal mode until the end of the year, playing Halloween Screams from September to October and Believe in Holiday Magic between November and January. Eventually, out of the blue, Disney announced an official replacement for Disneyland Forever, and much to the chagrin of myself, as well as many others, for some godforsaken reason, they chose to bring back Mickey's Mix Magic. The show returned as the New Year's Eve offering for 2020 and began holding nightly performances thereafter. Looking past the idiotic fact that Disney management chose this to be the New Year's Eve fireworks spectacular of 2020, the show once again ran projection only for the majority of performances, with pyro only being added on even fewer nights than before on very specific nights and weekends. This practice continued up until Disneyland's infamous closure on March 14th of 2020, when Mix Magic held its last performance to date, notably still running projection only on this date. And that brings us all the way up to today. It's unknown whether Mix Magic or any fireworks spectacular will return to Disneyland in the near future, let alone if the parks will open to begin with, but hey, on the bright side, at least we won't have to watch any piece of garbage like this for a while. With all that said, let's move on to the design segment. God help me, I'm going to break down this show scene by scene. No clever transition here. I don't care about this show enough to write one. It's notable to say that in early previews of this show, there was some semblance of a story through the use of some dialogue from Mickey Mouse in the opening, hinting to the fact of some storyline where he's trying to muster up the courage to get Minnie to dance with him. But the dialogue was removed prior to the first performance. Anyway, the show opens as the first chords to the annoyingly catchy theme of the show, Get Your Ears On, is played as Mickey appears on the main projection surfaces. Then the first shells, on Pyro Nights at least, appear absolutely out of nowhere. There is so much wrong with this opening bit. From throwing us into this show with absolutely no context, pointlessly gendering the audience, and legitimately not knowing right from left. Yeah, that's not the right direction, Disney. Okay, I'm gonna make a really difficult decision here and not mercilessly mock Disney for making such a stupid mistake. Instead, I'm gonna take the time to try and understand how this happened. So, looking past the option that this was just a legitimate mistake on the part of the designers, which is incredibly unlikely, there are a few options. For one, the footage I saw and I'm basing the script off just showed a misfire where this happened to be shot in reverse. Wrong, for a multitude of reasons. First off, further inspection of other performances shows that this is exactly how the show is programmed, and second of all, a misfire would not have looked like this. These shows are programmed using an elaborate computer launch system that has every cue down to a point. There is an infinitesimally small chance that a collection of cues would be fired at a wrong time for literally dozens of reasons. When a Disney show does misfire an effect, it usually looks something like this, in which earlier in the day when the effects are being loaded, someone placed the wrong effect into the launcher, which does not become obvious until the show is set off, and a cue is apparently set off in the wrong set of groups. Anyway, back to Mixed Magic, that pretty much rules out the possibility of a misfire. The other, much more likely option is that when they were designing this show, the idea was to have the megacomets being shot off pointing in each respective direction. This would make sense since the comets are launched at an angle. This is likely the effect the show's designers were looking for. However, the fact that I'm taking up precious video time to talk about these 4 seconds of the show proves that something ain't right. And look, this is not the fault of the show's designers. In fact, if you watch the show from somewhere like the It's a Small World promenade, the effects make sense because you are mere feet away from that launch site and you can really see what the idea is. The only problem is that most guests don't watch these shows from Small World. The vast majority of people watch these shows from Main Street or the Rivers of America, infinitely further away from the launch site. This is simply an issue caused by not utilizing every launch site inside the park. The site where these effects are set off from is so far away that it takes a good 5 seconds before the effects are really noticeable. For a show like Believe in Holiday Magic, this works fine because the show is slow-moving and more reliant on heartfelt ballads. But for a fast-paced show like Mixed Magic, it just takes too long for these effects to work. Personally, I think a way to fix this would have been to set off these effects from the Fantasyland rooftops, but Disney decided to not use those launch sites for Mixed Magic because money. Anyway, that's enough ranting about the opening of the show, let's move on. The next section of this show is a mildly reworked remix of I Wanna Be Like You from the Jungle Book, accompanied by some mild pyro in the background. This section is also bad. Now you may be wondering, why do you hate the section devoted to this song in Mixed Magic but love the one in Disneyland Forever? Well, that is because in Disneyland Forever, yes, you have the projections, the killer music, and the background pyro, but you also have so much stuff going up on the Fantasyland rooftops. Without those in-park launches, which basically is exactly what this segment is, the same one from Disneyland Forever with some pyro cues cut, the section really falls flat. After a very abrupt ending, we are thrown into the next section. Everybody Wants to Be a Cat from the Aristocats. Looking past the incredible irony of having the only Aristocats-themed section of a nighttime spectacular being put into the one specifically about an iconic mouse, this section is actually pretty okay. There are actually some things I really like about it. There's a really cool segment where the cats are jamming on pianos on the projection surfaces, and there's timed-out comments that coincide with that in the back of the park. See, that's really cool! I would have preferred these launches to be on the Fantasyland rooftops, but I know they weren't allowed to use those in-park launches for some reason. After a strangely adequate transition, we are thrown into an absolutely horribly remixed version of Friend Like Me from Aladdin that has oh so much wrong with it. First of all, the remix is atrocious. Robin Williams must be rolling in his grave. Second of all, the segment uses recycled projections from Disneyland Forever. That's fine in the abstract, but not in context. Why the hell is there a diamond kaleidoscope on the castle before the genie even appears? Anyway, this atrocious segment goes on for way too long and really just leaves a bad taste in the mouth as we move on to the next section of the show. Next, since we've destroyed one of my favorite Disney movies, let's destroy one of my favorite rides. we hear a piece of Paul Frees's iconic Ghost Host monologue as a remixed version of Grim Grinning Ghosts is played. In all fairness, they didn't ruin this song as much as they did the other ones. It's still not good, but it's okay. Fortunately, rather than try to retrofit the existing Grim Grinning Ghost song into an atrocious dubstep music line, they try and force the atrocious dubstep music line into Grim Grinning Ghosts. Now, this does make the dubstep line sound absolutely cacophonous, even though Grim Grinning Ghost is mostly intact, but I don't care. Don't you dare alter a single note of that masterpiece. Anyway, after a fairly decently handled transition, we are thrown into the only segment of the show I legitimately like. The Spanish version of Un Poco Loco from Pixar's Coco is played as stunning projections and incredible pyro is displayed. This section is legitimately great. They didn't really alter the song all that much, making it feel a lot more like a classic Disney show. The pyro in this section is also really well done with hues and colors that really match the scene, something I can't really say about the rest of the show. The only problem that I have with this segment is that it is way too short, or at least it feels that way because the rest of the show is so agonizing. After the Coco segment, we are thrown into a Let It Go segment. First of all, I thought we all collectively agreed that Frozen Fever ended in 2015, so what the hell is this doing here? And second of all, this is awful. Not only did they have the audacity to make a terrible dubstep remix out of one of my favorite songs in the Disney canon, it also has the most limited pyro of any section of the show. At least in Disneyland Forever, which was created at the tail end of Frozen Fever, you had a truly spectacular Steve Davison patented fake-out finale at the end of the segment.
And everyone's gonna get their stroller going, that was fabulous.
No, get him out of here. He shouldn't be associated with something like this. Fortunately, we're almost done with the show. As Let It Go ends, a finale reprise of Get Your Ears On is played as some of the only decent pyro in the show is displayed. Also, during this time, various footage of Disney characters dancing is played on the projection screens. I am sure the animators of these films must be livid that their creations are being featured like this. Anyway, bad show leads to bad final section leads to bad conclusion, and we're finally done with a wimpy burst of pyro. Blah blah blah, this show is trash, let's move on to the conclusion. Okay, first let me try and say some good things about the show. The pyro that is featured is very good. I just wish there was more of it. The projection effects are incredible, you can't deny that. The Imagineers worked with the tech that was installed for Disneyland Forever and really built upon it in incredible ways. Finally, the movies they chose to feature music from were all really good movies. I mean, imagine, we could have had something like this. Anyway, now on to the bad. This show has absolutely nothing to do with Mickey's 90th birthday, the music choices make no sense, and there is so little pyro in this show, it's not even funny. Now granted, limited pyro is not necessarily a bad thing. Fireworks are slowly destroying the planet, and in some cases good projection work alongside other effects can make up for a lack of pyro, but that's not why Disney made the decisions they made in this show. If they truly wanted less pyro because it was better for the environment, they would have just had a show mostly centered around the Fantasyland rooftop launch sites. Those effects create so much less fallout than shell fireworks shows. But no, they didn't do that to be better for the environment, they made choices because money. Fireworks are expensive, and it's much easier to buy cheap pyro seen in 4th of July and New Year's Eve shows seen all around the world than to have custom effects made. And I know this show's shortcomings are not the fault of its designers. I don't know who designed this show because smartly no one has claimed it outright, but you can practically smell the higher management budget cuts on this one. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of dubstep or pop music. I prefer my classic Disney fireworks show. But I can only assume, because I hate how they remix these songs, that they did a good job. Except Friend Like Me, that section is a disaster. I'm not a fan of pop music, but I'm aware that a lot of people in my generation are, and that is an important demographic that Disney needs to be reaching out to. Honestly, this show is not completely unsalvageable. I think there would be a few ways to fix it without throwing the whole thing out. First, bring back the storyline. Sure, it's not the best thing ever, but anything is better than nothing. Secondly, put more pyro in and maybe reinstate those Fantasyland rooftop launches. Thirdly, make some sort of vast improvement over Forever that proves the company is still moving forward. I mean, if they had put a giant DJ Mickey animatronic figure up on the castle that's in sync with the music for the show, this would have been a very different video. I mean, what it all comes down to is anything can be a flop. But if you put more money into that project, you might be able to make it flop less. I mean, look at Rivers of Light, an incredible show that wasn't well received at all, but still managed to last almost 3 years. Now imagine Rivers of Light if Joe Rohde wasn't involved and they had cheaped out on almost everything. Oh wait, they did do that. It was called The Jungle Book Alive with Magic, and it failed even harder than Rivers of Light. What I'm saying is that maybe, just maybe, if Disney had allowed the designers to be a bit more ambitious with Mickey's Mixed Magic and had provided some unique elements to it, maybe it wouldn't have been the absolute disaster that it ended up becoming. And there certainly is a small chance they'll try to improve on the show in the future. Anyway, I'm done talking about this show. It's a piece of trash and I hate it. There, that's the end of the video. Roll the outro. I'm dead serious. Play the We Go On thing in the outro. Play the damn outro, or the next video is going to be on Cinderellabration or something even more tragic. Thank you for watching this episode of Live the Magic. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking the video and maybe even subscribing to my YouTube channel. There are a lot of videos coming out real soon you won't want to miss, so be sure to click the bell icon so you get notified when we upload a new video. Have a great big beautiful day, and remember, tomorrow is just a dream away.
Step into the magic. Watch the stories come to life. This is a celebration. Every color shines so bright. Turn on your light. Come on and live the magic. So much to find. Come on and live the magic. Come on and live the magic. Live